Today on SHEMD, I am so excited to have my dear friend Molly Sims. Molly is a model, actor, TV host, podcaster, business owner, beauty guru, author, and so much more. Today, we're going to talk beauty, fashion, and love. Thank you for joining us at SHEMD. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for a physician's medical advice. You should regularly consult your medical provider in matters relating to your own health. So I couldn't be more excited today, and Thais had an emergency C-section, and she's going to be devastated because the reason that I know Thais is because I was co-hosting one episode on Lipstick on the Rim with you, and you said there's this amazing doctor coming in.
This is so you.
Literally, it was like, and by the way, this is so you, who you're such a badass friend and woman's advocate, but you said, just stay for this. This doctor's amazing. We're talking about Ozempic. And I was like, who do I want to talk about Ozempic? So I stayed, and she told us her breast cancer journey. I just met her that day. And then after that podcast, I met Thais and I said, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I need to figure out how to get you to the masses. And that's her why too. She's such a badass doctor, and it's, there's so many places in the United States where there's medical wastelands and women have no access to healthcare.
And also, I think she's just such an advocate for women's health. Like, to be able to have access to that is meaningful. I mean, we've seen, in the news recently, even with Olivia Munn, her, helping her, get to where she is today in her diagnosis. Yeah. What I love about Thais, and I love about you, and I love about this podcast, you're championing them to be better than we are, to have knowledge that we didn't know.
Right.
And I think, that's what I do. We do a lot on Lipstick on the Rim, and we literally had Thais on because we kind of wanted to talk about the good and bad of Ozempic, and is there any myth busters, or there's what's true, what's false? And it was such a good episode. But yes, that's true. I'm like, you're going to love this doctor. I'm like,
we were literally didn't stay.
I know.
I was like, I'm really busy, Molly.
I know.
But you were, honestly, so, I get teary-eyed when I talk about this, but no, but you did. Like, that moment, it changed the course of my life, and it gave me my why, and I had just shut my fashion line down, and I was sort of, what am I going to do? And you said, come co-host Lipstick when Emma can't do it. And I was like, okay, that sounds awesome. And I'd come on and bring doctors on because my parents had gotten sick. And I don't know, anytime you have a friend, you're just, how can I help you? I'll call you, who's a great social media person? But even before this, and this is what I want everybody to understand, and we talked about all the things that you are doing now as a beauty guru and starting Wise Beauty, but you were always the one that we would all call, Molly, what's a great under-eye concealer? And you'd say, well, I'm going to tell you. There's these 5, and I'm using a Southern accent, stronger than I am because we're both from the South. You're from Kentucky, I'm from Tennessee. I'd be like, Molly, who is the best facialist? Well, it depends on where you are. If you're in New York, I would go to this person. And so this is even years and years before you even thought about starting Wise Beauty, you started doing that. And then, so
I think I get that from my mother, to be honest with you. I know.
Your
God
sweet
bless
mama.
her. She's my sweet big mama. But she was that way. She was always like, helping people, connecting women. She was such a cheerleader. She really was. And she was my cheerleader. So I learned from the best.
Yeah. So I want to go back. I wanted to do This Is Your Life, Molly Sims. I know this about you, but I'm just going to read this out because I don't want to forget something, because there's so many things that you are and what you've done. You started off as a model, and you graced every single magazine cover in the world, from Vogue to Glamour to Cosmopolitan, Lucky, French Vogue. You then went on Sports Illustrated 6 times, once wearing a bikini worth $30 million. You then transitioned from supermodel to actress, Benchwarmer, Yes Man, Las Vegas. From there, you were an author of Everyday Supermodel and Everyday Chic. You then founded Wise Beauty, and you host Lipstick on the Rim. There isn't anything you can't do. You are an incredible mother. You're an incredible wife. I love those 3 babies. And you're a real women's advocate and a great friend to me. So I'm so happy that you're here. So I just want to start, though, with the modeling. You're in Kentucky. You're at Vanderbilt. Start at the beginning. So how does it start? Does somebody come up to you and say, you're the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen?
No. But when I was in 8th grade, I got my height, right? So I'm almost 5'10". So imagine little old me in 8th grade. And I had always heard 9th grade, 10th grade, oh my God, you should do modeling or something. And I did dip my toe. I will say, I don't know that many people know this about me, but I did dip my toe into the pageant world.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up a good old black and white. I won, I can't remember. I think I won Miss Callaway County. I'm pretty sure I did. I had a white puff-sleeved, jeweled gown. My hair was like French braided, but poofed, but up and back. It was fabulous. But that, I had so much fun, but I definitely knew that I wasn't of the pageant,
right.
World. But, we'd sit and watch it, Miss Universe, Miss USA, like every year. But ultimately, when I was in college, a girl that I knew was modeling. And she was like, oh, you should get your pictures taken from this guy named Rick Day out of Memphis. And those pictures were sent to New York. And my mom and I went up to visit some agencies just to see during the summer. I think it was in between my sophomore and junior year. The summer before that, I went and interned on the Hill because I thought I wanted to go into political law, some type of politics, which Mary Alice and I both share a love of crazy politics. From that, I went to New York. I did the rounds. I ended up signing with Next Models, who I'm still with 30-something odd years later, with Faith Cates and Joel Wilkenfeld. And then I was supposed to go back to New York. I was supposed to go back to Vanderbilt. And I have a letter that I wrote Vandy to say, I'm just going to take one semester off. I got a unique opportunity. And I think I can make it or something. It was really sweet.
I think I might make it.
And young and youthful. Like I look back and I'm like, oh God, it was so no worries in the world. And then I ended up in Germany, which was really hard and cold in the language. And it was just really difficult to kind of spread your wings when you're in Europe. At that time, you had to go to Europe because there were so many different magazines and you could get more tear sheets in your book and then come back to New York and make it.
Right.
I ended up staying there for about 3 or 4 months, and then I moved to London for 2 years. Then I moved to Paris, and I lived there off and on for 6 years. I spent time in Italy, Germany. It was the best education I could ever ask for.
Was your mom with you?
My mom would come. She came when I was living in Italy. I was pretty lonely by the time I got to London. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. It was starting to wear on me. I think, coming from college and being like, nothing really mattered what you look like. And then to flip that complete switch off and be like, everything matters what you look like.
Were you very skinny? Were you the perfect, at that time, did you?
No, I was.
Was it the time of Cindy Crawford and the supermodels, or was it before that?
It was before that.
Okay.
It was Corinne Day, the heroin chic. And, it was difficult. It was a difficult period of time because, my mom we'd always been health conscious, but we hadn't been skinny conscious.
Right. That's a difference.
It's a very big difference. So, mentally it was quite rough on me. I had to lose a lot of weight. It was definitely mentally challenging because I wasn't naturally thin. I wasn't, a girl who...
You have an amazing body, but you're athletic.
But yeah, I was more athletic. They called it catalog. And then when I was in Paris, the tides started changing a little bit. Giselle started coming up. It started being that, beauty, real beauty. But it was a good time and it was a bad time. But it's where I built most of my armor. I think when you go through things that are difficult, when someone is judging you constantly or talking about you, or you're 99% confirmed, but you don't get it.
Right.
Because, you're too blonde, you're too dark, you're too short, you're too tall, you're too skinny, you're too fat, you're too muscular, you're not muscular enough. You do start to build a definite, I would say, armor, shield, resilience. So I think, as I've gotten older, that has definitely been my superpower. There's not a lot that can
ruffle you.
There's not a lot that can ruffle me. And I think because at times I was just recently in London and I took my kids and, I had no money when I was living there. There was a great store. There's still a great store called Joseph in South Kensington. And I remember, and I still have this dress. I probably should have brought it, but I never talk about it. But I have a Missoni dress that I put away basically on layaway.
Do you remember layaway?
Yeah, layaway, a little money down. And I have that dress to this day, but it definitely made me just strong, like having no money, like having to be malleable, fitting in, not fitting in. It made me be able to go through ebbs and flows in my life and come out of the valley and go back up the mountain and go back in and come back up.
Right. It gave you resilience. And that's what we want for our kids.
It gave me resilience,
how do
and
we
it
teach
also
them
gave
resilience?
me, like, to you said, and to your point in the opening, a lot of people are like, wait, you've done this, you've done that, you've done this, you've done that. Like, I don't think there's just one chapter for women.
I think that's so awesome. That's so awesome. There's not one chapter for women. And one door closes, another one opens. And you just have to be able to pick yourself off the ground, pull yourself up, and start over again. And I think that is success at the end of the day.
It is. And I think because not everything is going to work. I talked to my husband. My husband's in the entertainment business with film and TV. And it's like, when we first started dating, it was like, I was very like, he was like, well, of course it's going to work. I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work. But like, I hate to break it to you, but I think, but failure is good and it can really help you in certain ways. It's helped me with my company. I'm really good at problem solving, but I'm really good at pivoting. And I think sometimes as women, we get stuck. You're just momming.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Or you're just CEOing. Like you gotta sometimes you gotta pivot. Sometimes you gotta do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Until something hits.
You showed me your very first Vogue cover, House of Style happened, like what, and then Sports Illustrated. I love showing my kids your Sports Illustrated. I'm like, this is Molly, oh my God.
It all happened, the kind of the catalog, the beauty girl started coming back. I tried my hand. I dyed my hair black, jet black, espresso, Clairol box. It's actually a really good black. If you want to do a box color and cut off all your hair. And then I let my hair grow out and I went back to trying to just look like me. And then the Vogue cover where I thought I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be this cool editorial. I'm going to do all the magazines. So much of what I thought was going to happen in my career was the exact opposite. I went from that to meeting Diane Smith at Sports Illustrated, to getting House of Style, to meeting Matthew Ralston and saying only at Old Navy and a commercial, an Old Navy commercial. And then I went from that to thinking, I had a very hard time through the industry. Everything depended on what I look like. I think because I'd worked so hard at school and so, to get into Vanderbilt and so hard, I had a really hard time.
Just having it be about your looks.
Just having it be about my looks. And I also was interested in storytelling and I've always liked putting things together and coming at the end of something, just showing up and holding the product or the Coke or whatever is that I was hawking at the time. I did think there was more. And I knew that, not that I knew that the writing was on the wall in terms of modeling, in terms of your time limit per se, but I did know that I wanted to do more than just be a pretty face. Mm-hmm. I kind of got a little bit of the bug of acting, and so I took a month in intensive at Sanford Meisner. I took that course for a month, and then everyone in October was going in it for a 2-year course. I would love to take that class, and I talked to the teacher into letting me half take it because I was still living in Europe. I was still living in Paris and New York, and I took like 77 red eyes to be over 2 years.
77 red eyes? Mm-hmm. Oh my God!
To be able to finish the course, and right when the 2-year course was over, I kind of started auditioning. I got an agent I'm like, I don't know. And I was at the top of my modeling. So I was like, this might gonna work out, right? And then I ended up auditioning for a reoccurring on Las Vegas. I think I was gonna be in 3 episodes.
And then they were like, hello.
No, I got it. I was so excited. And they're like, don't worry, it's never gonna get picked up. I'm like, great. Because I'm like, I can't lose my day job. I've worked 7 years for my day job.
Yeah.
And then right before we got the pickup, it was series regular or nothing.
And explain that. So
that
basically,
means that your ass is doing 24 episodes on network television where they own you. And they're like, no, don't worry, it's never gonna go. They always say it's never gonna go. After like audition, don't worry.
and most people really want it to go, but you were like, oh no, because you're at the height of your modeling career.
Right. And so it went, and God, I drove them crazy because I'm like, okay, Steve, I called him Steve Satan Sasson. Steve was basically my production. He had get your ass there on a Monday and end on a Friday at 4:00 in the morning. He's the man you had to get permission. Well, I would leave. I would go to New York. I would go to Paris. I'm like, I'll be back in 24 hours. I would drive them crazy. And I loved Gary Scott Thompson, who was the creator of my show. And, I think
Josh Duhamel, you got to
Josh,
spend all
and
that
even
time.
with Gary, like I tried to kind of downplay my looks for them to take me serious, I remember going in. I auditioned for Delinda in a camouflage t-shirt, jeans, and flip-flops.
Well, it's hard to hide this pretty. I just want you to know, like,
thanks, Boo. But they did call and they were like, does she not want to be sexier? I'm like, no, I was just trying to make you think I could act. I was an auteur.
And how did that transition into beauty? Because you've really created, Wise Beauty is
I think
amazing.
all of it had something to do with it. And then, I met Scott, and then I ended up, I was always the one who would leave LA and go back to New York or go somewhere. I loved traveling.
But let's talk about that for 1 second. You met Scott later. I
met Scott later
how
in
old were
life.
you when you met Scott?
Well, I was playing pregnant in my last season of Vegas. I was 35, and I wore that freaking bump for 23 episodes. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I'm producing a movie called Kinda Pregnant with Amy Schumer for Netflix. It's an R-rated comedy. But the reason why I found it so universal, because I was the girl wearing the bump. And I was 35, and I remember I woke up one day and I'm like, ugh, I really want a family. And it had never hit me. I never wanted kids young. I never wanted kids in my early 30s, ever. But 35, 36, I was like, oof. And I could tell like I was I was in and out of difficult relationships. And
what do you think it was about Scott? Like, what was it that was, you had long-term
I just think
relationships?
of who I was when I was in my 20s, even in my early 30s, of how different I was by the time I met him. Mm-hmm. And I mean this in a really good way. Like, I tend to be a very codependent person. I think because I always found a little bit of safety, because I've been in an industry since I was 21 years old. Mm-hmm. I never could be stable.
You were everywhere. You were all over the world.
Not only that, but I never could rely on something. Mm-hmm. I missed birthdays. I missed funerals. I missed weddings. I missed friendships. I was always, I wouldn't say I was somewhat of like a hippie, but in the way that I lived, I felt like I didn't have a foundation besides my parents and my brother. I was always, I don't know, so I always felt like I needed something like that was safe. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of got me into long-term relationships, even though they were way too long. But like
I stayed in them too long.
I stayed in them too long because I needed some foundation. I needed some safety.
Like an anchor.
Like an anchor.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds bad to say. But as I look back in a lot of therapy, I think, and listen, I dated some wonderful guys, and I owe a lot to a few of them because they were there for me in different ways that made such a massive difference in my life to be able to go and do the things that made me.
Yeah.
But in terms of meeting Scott, like I first met him, I'm like, he asked me out for an entire year and I'm like, I cannot date you. I cannot date you because you have your own situation and I have to date. I needed to date. I was not the one to date. If I met you, then that was it. I'll date you for 5 years. I'll just date you forever. But with Scott, I met him late, but he was just,
He's the best.
he was very, I wasn't used to dating an executive either. Like I was always dating like, you know, an actor,
model,
someone, I don't even know. But I just remember like he always showed up, right? He was very busy, but he'd be like, would you like to go out on a date in a week? And I'm like thinking, I don't know where the fuck I'm going to be in a week, but okay, sure. But sure enough, a week would go by. I wouldn't really talk to him. He'd be like, hey, do you want to go do X or whatever? I always found that a little odd, you know?
You just never had an adult.
I wasn't used to adulting. But I don't know. I think it was just at that moment what I needed. And he was also patient with me too. Like I dated other people. He still like, he didn't give up, you know? I was 38 or 39 and he gave me his Lakers t-shirt in New York at my apartment on Valentine's. And we've been dating like 4 months. I was like, does this mean you want to go exclusive with your Laker t-shirt?
Steady with your Lakers?
Steady. But I remember that was like his favorite t-shirt. And I knew it like it had a lot of weight. And that was it. Then about a year and a half later, we got engaged and got pregnant on our honeymoon. We weren't really together for long before. But, you know, I did meet my prince later. But I think for me, I think I needed to.
You needed that.
I needed to. I think I was a little stunted because I was always going and being in, you know, I also needed to kind of grow up.
Yeah.
You know, I needed to, I really, the one thing I can say that I did, I went to see a therapist to like hold accountability because I was the girl who would find like a dead bird on the side of the road and be like, I can bring you back to life. I can, you know, with my lightness, I can make your darkness lighter. Like that's really narcissistic of me, to be truthful. That a therapist actually told me. I do think I needed to grow up. You know, I was always so dependent on what they were going to do for me or what they were going to say for me or did they want to be with me? I don't know. And then with Scott, I was like, oh no, honey. Right? Like, no, this is not how it's going to go.
Somebody said this to me the other day, that it's our responsibility to look within ourselves and figure out why are we making these choices. And we have to make different choices, but you have to look inside and say, why am I choosing that same person again and again and again? And Scott was a different person. So you, like you said, you had to get in therapy and you had to figure out.
He had a suit on. He wore white socks like during
By the way,
athleisure.
Tom is exactly the same way.
I was like, he was such an executive. He was very calendared. And I was used to being like, let's fly to Paris for 2 days. He was like, I can't fly to Paris for 2 days. I'm like, okay. Like I was used to the exact opposite. I'm like, let's go to Santa Barbara. Let's go to Europe. Like for a couple, like we were not on the same, he dated different people. I dated, and I never really dated anybody like him.
And he's so special.
Like he had
really
a job.
Is. Yeah. You never dated somebody with a job.
Like a serious job.
Your parents were probably very happy.
I know. My poor mother. You know, my mom was so good about like not stressing me because I knew, you know, my parents were older. They had me older. So she really, by 35, she was like, what the fuck is happening? But she was like, I just don't want you to settle. And
what a great mom.
I know.
What a great, and Big Mama passed away. Was it last year or has it been a year?
It's been 4 years.
It's been 4 years?
It'll be 4 years, April 20th.
Oh my God, that's incredible, Molly. That feels like yesterday. I know for you it feels like forever and yesterday probably at the same time. Now, what about pregnancy? Did you have easy pregnancies?
You know, because I was so, when I did my freak out, we had Shaheen Gadir. He's a fertility specialist that I highly recommend. And when I was shooting Vegas, I went to see him because I had heard about this egg freezing thing. This was like, 14 years ago. And then I had made a pact to myself a couple of years later, if I had not met someone, I was going to do it. And then I actually had met Scott, but I really wanted to, I knew I really wanted it, and I really wanted to make sure I had that insurance policy. So we actually did a couple of rounds of IVF. And I think it actually helped my fertility. I think.
But you did a couple rounds of IVF, or you did a couple rounds of egg freezing?
I did a couple rounds of IVF.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I bucked up and said, I know we're not married, but I'm doing this. And
then, but the first one was natural on your honeymoon, right?
all of them were natural.
All of them were natural.
All of them were natural.
See, you freaked out for no reason.
I know. I tend to do that.
But I have to tell this funny story. I'll never forget. It was, I think it was after your first pregnancy, and you, right after, and listen, after our first pregnancy, we need to give ourselves a break. We need to it takes 9 months on, 9 months off. And I was having a Christmas party or something, and you walked in, and it's not that you had gained weight. You just it was like water retention. And you looked at me and you were, do you remember this? And like with tears in your eyes. And I was like, Molly, I mean, what do you say? So I just remember
Yeah, it was a definitely dark moment. It was 2012. I'd just gotten married September 24th, 2011. I'd gotten pregnant about a week and a half later. And by June 19th, I was 204.
And for somebody that has literally spent their entire career about what your body looks like.
Yeah.
And
my mother had said to me, and it all came on in the last 3 months. My mother had said to me in May, and I had the baby in June. She's like, I think something's wrong with you. And I said, I do too. I don't know what, If
were your doctors telling you anything?
No, I don't know why. I don't know why I ended up having a thyroid issue. I had a hypothyroidism. I don't know why it was not caught. I really don't. I don't know if it happened on like the very end of the pregnancy and it just put on weight and but I was so swollen.
Swollen, it was what it was. You hadn't even gained a lot of weight. It was just swollen.
You could prick me almost. Yeah. I was uncomfortable. But to Mary Alice's, podcast, and the reason why we're both doing this now, I became my own advocate. And I knew something was wrong with me and I could not figure it out. And it wasn't because I was binging, because I was a model and I'd never gone to eat before. And now she's pregnant, which a lot of people said, oh, I'm sure they thought I was eating too much or whatever. But no, I became an animal trying to figure it out. And I didn't even figure it out until about 4 months after I had him.
And it was like, boom, when you figured it out, it was just, it was incredible.
I think in a month I lost like 25 pounds. 30 pounds.
But you were your own advocate. You dove in there. Mm-hmm. And you've always been like that, Molly. And that's sort of like your reserve inside of you. And I think you're like that with your health, and you really are. You are, it's like, okay, and if something's on, we're going to face it. We're going to handle it.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think, you have to be your own advocate. I think you should have a yearly checklist on what you do. Get your blood work once a year. If you're over, a certain age, or you have history, or you have a breast cancer.
And we're going to come on your podcast and talk about the risk assessment that's going to happen.
If you have, if your number ends up being high, definitely get your mammograms, get your sonograms, get your MRIs. But definitely chart it, definitely chart and know it. Make yourself a little calendar. Have an incredible cardiologist. I go see him once a year. We do X, Y, and Z. Go to the dentist. Go get your mammogram. There are certain things that you can take into your own hands.
Yeah, and nobody else is going to do it
and no one else is going to do it.
As I get a little older, I've really started to pay attention to my skin. And I have found that red light therapy is one of the best ways to take care of things like wrinkles, eczema, and much, much more. It only takes 10 to 20 minutes a day with Bon Charge's red light face mask and Mac's red light therapy device to feel rejuvenated and fresh. Bon Charge is a holistic wellness brand with a huge range of evidence-based products to optimize your life in every way. Founded on science and inspired by nature, all Bon Charge's products adopt ancestral ways of living in our modern-day world. Their extensive range of premium wellness products help you sleep better, perform better, have more energy, recover faster, balance hormones, and reduce inflammation. The list is endless. From blue light glasses to red light therapy, Bon Charge's products help you naturally address the issues of our modern-day way of life. Go to boncharge.com and use coupon code SHEMD to save 15%. That's BONCHARGE.com and use coupon code SHEMD to save 15%. Okay, so I really want to talk about beauty just because I don't think I know anybody else in this world that is as much of an expert as you are. I'm not kidding. So I said, like, years before you started Wise, and Lipstick on the Rim, both of these, you were the person that everybody went to. What was the moment where you're like, why start Wise? Why start Lipstick on the Rim? Like, what brought that?
I was at a time where I was definitely, let's do another chapter. But I had 3 small kids. We were in COVID. And I don't know, I started getting itchy. I knew that kind of the same way as a model. I know this about me. I can feel it when I need to do something different. I feel move to Europe. Scott knows, he's like, it scares him, but I definitely have always had that kind of feeling. And I didn't want to go back to acting full time. Mm-hmm. So I started writing. I started a little bit producing with the home edit, Get Organized. We'd found them and kind of nurtured that. And then Hello Sunshine was incredible as a partner. And then we took it and turned it into a Netflix show. So that kind of got my producing, storytelling flowing. I've always been an avid reader. I used to read for my husband, and I genuinely like to read thriller-esque things, which we can discuss later. Never met a Dateline I didn't like. But
you just took your beauty knowledge from years of being one of the biggest
years
supermodels.
Of doing it, but I also wanted to have something. I wanted to create something. Mm-hmm. I got a little bit tired of doing I'm going to come in at the very end,
right,
and represent X or Y or Z but with my skin, during the time I really had a bad, thyroid issue, I started getting uneven skin tone, hyperpigmentation. And so I did kind of get on this roller coaster. Do a V-peel, do a laser, do hydroquinone. And it was great for a few months. But ultimately, the moment you go back out in the sun, it makes
right
it worse, especially the melasma. And then as you do the peels and the lasers, it thins your skin, and then you're dry and you're red and you're irritated, but you don't have spots. And I was on literally this roller coaster till 2017, 18. 2019, Scott said I had a little bit of dirt or something on my face. I'm like, this is it. And so I'd stopped going to the derm. I got off hydroquinone. Haven't used it since 2019.
And tell us what that is.
Hydroquinone is an active that will get off. It's basically a lightening active. It's a very strong ingredient that is really only supposed to be used for short periods of your life. But
you were on it for a long time?
I was on it off and on since 2012, which is not great.
Okay.
Because it thins your skin.
Okay.
With uneven skin, with brightening, when you're trying to get the glow, when you're trying to have uneven skin, when you're trying to exfoliate, there's a really big problem because you're trying to exfoliate and strip your skin to get all the dead skin cells off, but you also don't want to mess up your barrier. Mm-hmm. And that is what I was doing. So I would do something really drastic for a few months, but then I would mess up my barrier, being that I was thinning it, I was making it dry, I was making it red, and it just created havoc. So I created a system that now is ultimately Wise. I started with one product and then another product and another product. And what I learned is that something crazy drastic wasn't the answer, but something that had nothing in it, no actives whatsoever, stuff that looked cool, had no efficacy. Mm-hmm. And so I created what is now the brightening collection. I started with my pads, then I went to some type of vitamin C, and then which is now my morning cocktail. Then I would do a glow kind of primer that just to kind of keep my insurance policy of my SPF, but also having my vitamin C. And then my problem solver is my ode to hydroquinone. It's a brightening treatment in a gold tube. And is a treatment that I put a dime all over my face and my neck every single night. And that is why I have an even skin. And
Your skin is so pretty, Malls.
base it with a thing called the last call, which is a gentle retinol. So my system, my routine, my cocktail is a brightening system that will not mess up your barrier, but at the same time gets everything off. And I have to say,
can every kind of skin use it? Okay, so it's not just for.
it's for, you can, if you have sensitive skin, your favorite X-Pads, they've been sold out 4 times.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. Like I always say, like people always complimented my hair. People still compliment my hair color, but I'm like, it's only because I do the extra step. I do a detox shampoo or I do a crystals before, and I get all the sunscreen, all the minerals, all the water, all the gunk hairspray out of my hair. And then I do my color. It's the same as your skin. If you leave all the dead skin on, the sunscreen, the leftover retinol from the night before, and you're not properly cleansing and exfoliating, which is what the cleanser and the pads do, your face ends up looking like you're wearing your makeup.
And that's how I feel. Like even right now, my makeup's sitting on my face, and it's sort of got, and I'm finding too, as I'm getting older, this didn't used to happen. When you're little, you don't put oil in your face because you've got these like, you're going to break out. Now I'm like slathering myself, and it still doesn't work.
I know.
I'm literally like, and my skin, I find everybody's telling me this too, perimenopausal and menopausal, it's thin. And I'm like, what do I do? What do I do?
You don't mess up your barrier. So you really take onus in that barrier and really hydrate and get ingredients like ectoin, beta-gluconolactone, gluconolactone, things that are cushioned, squalene, glycerin, using brightening, but brightening where it's stripping, but it's not stripping. Like our cleanser, I just did a whole thing this morning. It's like my cleanser is so good because when you take off all your makeup, it doesn't feel dry. It doesn't feel like sandpaper. It feels soft and plump and ready. And then I start the niacinamide. Then I start the morning cocktail. The reason why my morning cocktail is so successful, my vitamin C, because it doesn't peel. It doesn't feel sticky. Like it doesn't. So you can put on makeup over it. It's not going to peel. It doesn't feel sticky. It doesn't smell. And you have to wear vitamin C every single day. And if you wear vitamin C, you have to have sunscreen. And so that's why the morning cocktail and
we're going to have your whole regimen on the site too, and links, just exactly what to do, because I think that's the problem. Like it's the same with medicine, with beauty. There's so much out there.
Well, we just launched our Wide Awake Brightening Eye Cream. And this is, women, when we would ask them, we were like, do you wear your eye cream? Sometimes.
Yeah. That's me.
But do you want to wear your eye cream? Yes, of course. But how can it make you wear an eye cream? So we created an eye cream that if your concealer had a baby with your eye cream, and it's an under eye brightening, it's got rice bran extract, pomegranate, glycerin. It's got over 100 antioxidants and really strong vitamin C. And what it also has in it is caffeine. So it depuffs. Even the applicator is cold, so you can depuff. It has caffeine in it. And then it's instant brightening. And what's amazing about it is it's universal. You can use it on all skin tones. And what it appears to be on the skin is not what it will ultimately. So you're like, oh my God, is this a little red? Is this a little orange? But it has microsphere pigments that make it go into your skin, and that gives it that blurring effect. So the color that you see, if you just keep rubbing it in,
changes.
You won't see it. You'll just see it brightening.
You just gave me some, and I posted for you in my, like after a day of shooting in my bathrobe, and I'm like, I definitely need this, Molly Sims.
Well, again, you can use it in the morning. You can use it at lunch. You can use it. I just prepped with it right before I came over. I came from a riveting Texas Hold'em musical for 3rd through 6th grade at my little school. But I think I've always had a love of beauty. I think with the podcast, it was twofold why we started it. We started it because I knew I was kind of thinking about starting a brand, and like, how can I get to interview doctors? How can I become more of an expert in beauty and wellness? And then I've always loved it. I love that, spa there. I'm like, I love that cold plunge. I love that dry brushing. Let's do infrared. I've been doing that.
I know, forever. And you're the one that everybody,
years.
So I get asked this all the time. It doesn't matter where I am. People find out that I'm your friend and they're like, just tell me what she does. I want to know, what does she do for her workout? What does she do for her hair?
I almost named the podcast, Just Tell Me What to Do.
Because that's true. So if everybody listening, I'm going to give you Molly's workout. What do you do?
You're going to hate me for saying this, but it's 80-20. It's 80% what you eat and 20% what you work out. Mix it up. I do HIIT, I do Pilates, I walk, I run, I do a mixture of everything so I'm not bored. I dance. But do I crush it 6 days a week? I do not. I actually think if I crush it too much and I burn so many calories, I'm actually more hungry and it's harder for me to pull that back. It's weird.
Do you have a certain diet?
I do. I eat a lot of protein, a lot of vegetables. But I also I love, I'm not gluten-free. Like I eat brown rice, I eat bread. It's just, I don't eat a ton of it, right? I definitely cut back on the alcohol. I think when COVID, we were all, I was stuck at home with 3 kids. Cutting back on that is definitely a necessity. I love cold plunging. I do think a red light therapy is key for inflammation.
For your face?
For your face and your body, if you can afford it. Go in the whole bed, get in an infrared, tube and just lay there. There's a new word I'm going to start to talk about a lot. It's called inflammaging.
Inflammaging.
Meaning inflammation with aging. As we get older, we need to lower the inflammation in our body. Fight or flight. How stressed are you? Are you taking those moments? Are you sleeping? Because that leads to inflammation. Yeah. That leads to sickness, right? So trying to calm your nervous system, I think
so hard.
For me, has been almost impossible. I've had a hard couple of years medically and I had a back surgery and then I had a couple other surgeries. And, I think that is my goal for 2024 and on, just really trying to calm that fight or flight, because I can get myself very worked up, as you know.
No.
But I believe in microneedling. I believe in radio frequency and tightening. If you want to do something at home, I believe in the new face. I believe in Dennis Gross has a great red light mask. An ultra flare. Bone Charge has a great one. Light Stem, if you want to spend a little bit more money. They have a small dome one that I love. I just got, and I banked out the money. Yes, you're welcome. Catherine Esposito is an incredible esthetician facialist that got me hooked on it. Taking a walk, taking a breath.
What about your hair? Your hair,
My hair, I definitely had some issues with. And I guess I'll say it. Never said it before. I actually just went on minoxidil.
And what's minoxidil?
2.5 milligrams. It helps your hair grow. Now, hair does grow in every other part of your body, but I'm taking a medicine that a side effect is thinning, and as you get older, it thins. So I did go on it, and I have to say, it's made a huge difference.
And then what do you do before you sit?
Vitascal, Nutrafol, getting Crown Affair has a great scalp, getting into your scalp, detoxifying. Kenra, there's a gray shampoo. I have the Big Daddy in my shower and do it once a week. Get all that stuff, all that shit out of your hair, all off your color.
I need to do that. I always feel I can't get the shampoo out. It's just kind of stuck there.
They have I love Kenra. I am obsessed with that line. They make a great, if you want to wear your hair back, where it's super chic and slick. Mm-hmm. So with my hair, the texturizing taffy from Kenra, they also make a detoxing shampoo that is insane. They have a heat spray that is incredible. I honestly, I love the whole line. What else with my hair? Having really good tools,
yeah,
I also think makes a really good difference. And I think the biggest tip I can give people with your hair, if you are getting a blowout, if you're blowing out if you're blowing your hair out yourself, or you're getting a blowout, do not do it on crazy high heat.
Low heat.
Okay. Lola V has a great detangling spray that I love. My kids are obsessed with it.
Hair's hard.
Hair, you got to take care of your hair.
And my hair was invincible.
My hair was invincible for so long.
Me too. And then all of a sudden, actually, it was around, I think it's perimenopausal too.
Right.
All of a sudden, I was like, why is my hair not growing? Like, this is weird and it's breaking off. And I used to be able to color it with every inch of its life.
I know.
And now I'm like,
I know.
What is one thing that people don't know about you?
Well, my husband thinks I'm going to kill him because I watch so much Dateline. But honestly, I'm like, he watched this one episode. If you want to watch one episode of Dateline, watch the bitter pill episode. It's very interesting how she killed him. Or tried to kill him, per se. Oh my God, what's one thing? I love eating breakfast for dinner. I love to lie and say that like I'm sick and I stay in and I cuddle my kids. It's true. I lie. I do not do the Mary Alice. Mary Alice will throw an incredible dinner party and 9:30 she's asleep with her eye mask on upstairs.
And everybody's still here.
Is still here. I work really hard.
I know that, baby. I see that. You work very hard. You work very hard at being a great mom. You work very hard at being a great businesswoman. You work hard at everything you do, and you're a really good friend.
Yeah. And I think, in the friend part, I think you have to deposit coins into the bank. I think sometimes people, oh my God, why aren't you there for well, were you there for me? Did you check on me? Did you just that little phone call? Or you do have to, you do it with friends, you have to deposit. I think I missed out a lot in my youth on that. I thank God for my girlfriends who stuck with me. And I recently had a 50th in Morocco and
it was fabulous.
It was fabulous. And some of my friends were like, oh, why did you invite everybody? And I'm like, well, these people have been with me for the past 20 years of my life, 30 years of my life. They kept me afloat. I know.
All right, give us Molly's top 5 beauty tips. And we're going to put we're going to put your whole program for Wise Beauty on.
Right. So my 5 tips would be to exfoliate. Whatever you do, definitely exfoliate. Manifest. I know it's in the top 5, but manifest what you want. Mm-hmm. The boy, the husband, the job, the work, the baby. Manifest it. Put it out there. In terms of beauty, I believe in the red light therapy. Mm-hmm. I believe in the infrared sauna. I believe that if you take a moment for yourself and feel good, even if you're guilty that you haven't done this X for your kids, or have a moment with your husband, if it makes you feel better, you will be better at momming. Take care of yourself. Go to your doctor appointments. Do not put them off, even if you're scared to go.
Do you take collagen?
I do take collagen.
Which collagen do you love?
I like Isopure. I like
every day you take it?
2-3 days a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you put it in your coffee?
I use, you're going to have Sarah Raggi.
Yeah. Sarah is someone I keep hearing about, and we're definitely going to have her on the podcast.
She's amazing. I think you got to meet her as well that night. She was really interesting the way that she looked at the body. She looked at nutrition.
And it's science backed. That's what we're trying to do, right? So
I started taking her alkaline, and then she has one called Restore at Night. I think those are 2 excellent products.
And what supplements do you take?
Magnesium.
At night. So do you take Sarah's and the magnesium? Mm-hmm. You take 2. Mm-hmm. What magnesium do you like?
Thorn.
Okay, you take Thorn. Mm-hmm. And there's so many different kinds of magnesium.
I like the Moon Juice.
Is that
pink
Thorn?
Magnesium by Moon Juice.
Okay.
I just take the plain magnesium from Thorn and the white, a big bottle of it.
Okay.
I have a little bit of joint pain, and I have sometimes trouble with muscle recovery lately. I take tart cherry. I take 2 at night, and that's really helping me sleep. My joints are starting to relax a little bit more. I take vitamin D. I take...
Everybody is pretty much deficient in vitamin D. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's because we're all using sunscreen, and even in California, but every time I test my vitamin D, and I tested my kids, and they're deficient.
I take metformin. I take a peptide. I see Dominique Reed with
who I love,
with Mary Alice.
And she does all of our blood work.
My Synthroid, my thyroid medicine. What else do I take? Vitamin D, vitamin B, vitamin C.
If someone is going to have one product of yours, pick one product, which one would it be?
God, it's like picking my babies.
I know. People used to ask me about my dresses for fashion. I'm like, you're asking me about my children.
I know my favorite dress from you. I'm from Haney.
I had the Molly. The first season had the Molly.
I love the Molly. I would say your favorite X pads. I think that's something.
By the way, the
that'll get you-
names. Your favorite X pads.
I know. It'll get you into the brand. They're highly addictive and they work.
They work. But we are going to have the full regimen on the site because I think,
Thank you.
Again, there's so much noise out there.
Well, I just think it goes back to, we created the line to make it simple. It's clinically, if we have clinicals. I say radiance, expert efficacy, radiant results. I want something that is efficacious and I want it to have results and I want to feel good about it. And we don't have a lot of time. And more doesn't mean better and more doesn't mean more. And I think when you look at brightening, when you look at your core essentials on what you're using every day, consistency is the magic. I wish I could say, with really good ingredients, I wish I could say, oh, this $600 product, if you don't use the $600 product every day, cleanse your face, exfoliate, protect your barrier, and brighten. At night, this is where your actives can come into place. If you're waking up dry and irritated and red and just like sandpaper, that's probably one of the worst things you can do. Limit going to your derm. Limit the
things that we thought.
The heavy microdermabrasion, the heavy lasers, like all that thins your skin. And as you get older, your skin what you were saying is it gets naturally thinner. Try your best to be happy. I don't love when someone's like, we'll say, just be happy. But there is a little bit of, you sometimes got to pick yourself up. You gotta dig deep. And no, not everything works out, And you're
going to be okay.
And you're going to be okay.
I love you, Molly.
You're the best. You're the best.
Thank you so much for joining us today on SHEMD. If you want to stay strong, healthy, and empowered, follow us on social media at SHEMD Podcast and subscribe to our show on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. For the takeaways from this episode, visit shemdpodcast.com.